So this is a relatively non-technical view or perspective about what you can do with our API. I wanted to kind of go over some basics about what an API actually is. This is something that is used predominantly by developers. An API does stand for Application Programming Interface, and probably the most basic way that I can explain it is that an API allows one application to utilize the features and services of another application. So in Phone.com's case, you might have a CRM system that there's a need to utilize SMS functionality from Phone.com, but have that being used by the CRM application. And we'll get into a lot of different use cases further down the road. I'm hoping to talk for about 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and then we will go into a Q&A. If you do have questions, ask them. We'll respond to the easy ones via chat, and then we'll get into more detailed questions and answers at the end of this. So one of the great things about an API, or APIs in general, is that you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Often when it comes to communication systems, anything that is custom, in the past, often people would go about the route of building a completely brand new system from scratch and then integrating it into other applications. Luckily, Phone.com, we have built this great platform, this great infrastructure. You're all using it. You know what it does. And effectively, we're just making all those cool features that Phone.com customers have available to them, and we're making those features available to developers. It's going to happen over time. There's a bunch of features available now, but plenty of features that will be released, on an ongoing basis. And the last point here, it basically just lets developers build, the tools of Phone.com into their own applications. As far as a business is concerned, if you're a business owner and you're kind of interested in what you can do with the API, I'll talk about a couple things that you could do, just ideas, but at the end of the day, there are many different use cases for how you could use an API, and it's just a matter of understanding what you can do and then leaving it up to your own creativity to determine, how you're actually going to go about, doing these integrations. So a couple of the major benefits, besides, we're not talking features here, but just APIs in general. Because through APIs you have access to these services or features, you no longer need to build your own infrastructure or your own system. So in the past you might have to have custom built a server that does some kind of communication functionality. Now you don't need to do that. It's all done through the internet. There's no need to buy any specific hardware. The same thing applies to carrier provisioning. In the past, if you wanted to build a text messaging system, you'd have to build a server, plug it into some kind of phone service, and often that phone service, if anyone has ever purchased, services from older or traditional carriers, that install timeline can take anywhere from a couple weeks to, more than a month. With Phone.com, as you know, everything is provisioned instantly, and that applies to APIs as well. Our API is also something just the same. I mean, you're all familiar with how we bill and how we price and how you pay for your service. You all know there's no contracts, and the same thing will apply to our API, which the API is actually more of an on-demand type service. So for every minute you use, you get billed for minutes. For every SMS you send, you get billed for SMSs. Though I don't want to confuse you guys because right now our API is free, and we'll get into that in a bit. Also, this is very much a self-service thing. If you are a developer, or if you know a developer who can, assist in any kind of custom integration you're trying to do, they'll be able to come to Phone.com and start using our API almost instantly. Another great thing about APIs in general is that you don't need any kind of specific skill set to utilize our API. If you are a developer, I mean, of course, the being a developer or knowing how to code is the baseline level of requirement to use an API, but you don't have to be any specific kind of developer. You could be a PHP developer, you could be a Java developer, you could be a Ruby developer. All of those skills are all you need to know how to use our API. In the past, if you wanted to build a custom system, you might have had to find a Cisco engineer or a Nortel engineer, or if anyone has ever heard of open source systems like Asterisk, you can't be any developer and all of a sudden start using or configuring or building those systems. You need to have a baseline understanding of how those systems operate and how to configure them. With APIs being so standard, any developer knows how to do it. Also, a nice thing with our API and how we're going to eventually charge for it is you pay one low price regardless of how, regardless of your usage. Because there's no contracts, there's no upfront commitments. If you send, one text message, you only pay for one text message. This is very different than in the past, where, if you were trying to deliver phone service to some kind of infrastructure, phone service to some type of system, you'd have to pay upfront for, a T1 or fiber optics or some kind of service being delivered to your premise. That is really irrelevant and something that is not really being done anymore because of APIs and the move away from, physical infrastructure that you had to plug into to everything running over the internet. Let me kind of, if you're still kind of thinking to yourself, I'm not quite sure what an API is, let me give you some real-world examples. And the basis of these examples is effectively, one type of application doing one thing that is integrating with another application. So in the instance of, taking a picture with a fancy photo application, if you've ever done that and been able to upload it to Instagram, if it's not an Instagram application but some other photo application, when it lets you upload it to Instagram, that is an integration between one photo application and Instagram using their API. Another example is if you ever have searched for a restaurant on Yelp through their web interface or mobile application, whenever you see a map, it's usually Google Maps, and that is utilizing Google Maps API. Or, back to phone service, if you've ever gotten a text message from your airline or, a booking agent about an upcoming flight, that text message is usually sent through some other third-party communication services API. So, in this example, let's say, your airline example, an airline wouldn't actually build a full SMS infrastructure from scratch so that they can, utilize that type of functionality. That is something you don't need to do anymore. You can just send that SMS via an API through someone else's service, like Phone.com's platform. Or another example, last one, we've all probably gotten bank alerts, whether it's, your bill is due or there's been fraud. That is typically an API application or an SMS API sending that message out. All these, most of the time when you get notifications from companies you're doing business with, they didn't build a full SMS infrastructure to do that. They typically are just using an API from a company like Phone.com to send those SMSs. I'm focusing a lot on SMS, but I wanted to go over a handful of the different types of features that are available to you guys. Being Phone.com customers, you already know what is capable with a lot of these features. Making them available over an API just means that you can create or query different features from other applications that you might be using or an application that you might have developed yourselves. So currently we're in beta. The screen that you see of features is a fairly comprehensive list of the different features that you have access to with our API. The first and main one being the ability to send and receive SMSs. You can, with our API, create and manage menus. An example of that would be, if you, for example, have some crazy, complicated, menu structure that could be influenced by, time of day, or could be influenced by, the season. You could build an application that automatically creates and manages menus without having to do that manually yourself in your Phone.com control panel. Again, a lot of this, is sometimes and quite often easier said than done. But if you're working with a developer is going to very easily be able to determine how to accomplish some of this functionality using our API. We're providing the ability to create and manage queues. You can create and manage call handling rules, upload and manage media, and the query phone.com contacts. So if you had, with our contacts, if you have a bunch of contacts in your phone.com account, you could actually sync those contacts with another third-party application. So maybe you could sync your phone.com contacts over to your CRM. Right now, it's only one way. So you can only go from phone.com to another application. You can't at the moment go from, besides the standard sync features that we offer, there's not two-way right now. That's the same with schedules. You're able to query schedules from other applications and also query extensions. So if you had some service that needed to identify different users' extensions with your phone.com account, that feature would allow you to do it. So that's just a general kind of snapshot of the features. Again, back to SMS, because I think that is really the fun, cool feature right now of our API. It's very easy to use. Again, if you're a developer, you should be able to pick it up pretty quickly on how to integrate text messaging. Text messaging in the world of APIs is probably the most used feature. People are moving a lot of different communications away from email to text messaging. If in your business you've ever thought to yourself, wow, I really wish I could, get this message noticed quicker by our customers, rather than sending an email, sometimes text messages can do a much, better job at that. So there's a lot of different ways that you can integrate SMS messaging into your business. The start is to look at what other applications is your business using, and would it make sense to have, based on something triggered by that application, an SMS sent. So let's say you're a doctor and you've got a scheduling system. You want to be able to message your patients that they have an upcoming appointment. You would very easily be able to take your calendar that your patient scheduling is done in, and build a small application that would essentially, 1 week and 2 days and 3 days before an appointment, send people alerts or notifications about an upcoming, appointment. So that's one example. Let's say you're a restaurant and your restaurant is using some kind of reservation system. You could integrate that reservation system with our SMS API to send notifications that someone's table is available. I mean, there's a lot of different things that you can do here, and it really is up to your own imagination as to how you're going to use SMS and how it might be useful for your business. It could be very simple. It could just be, random scheduled SMS telling people about promotions. There's a lot of ways to slice and dice it. And, all of us over at phone.com would be more than happy to answer questions. If you're thinking to yourself, well, I've got an idea, but I don't know how to do it, you're more than welcome to email myself or email phone.com in general, and hopefully we can first of all tell you yes, it's possible with our API or not, and then give you a fairly detailed review as to whether it can be accomplished and how you would go about accomplishing it. The first point, though, is you do need a developer. If you're either a developer planning on learning how to be a developer, trying to kind of brush up on some coding skills, that's great. You should be able to use our API. If you kind of have no idea how to code or have no idea how to build applications, that's totally fine. We can work with you, but you certainly will need a developer on your end to help integrate these things and start using our API. We right now do not have a large developer network. I'm hoping that in the future we'll have a bunch of developers that if you needed a custom solution, I can recommend a developer to you and they can help build this custom solution for you. Because we just launched our API, we only have a handful of people using it, and I think the best approach is bring your own developer, and we'll work with them and try to get whatever integrations or custom SMS features set up for you. SMS, we all know what it's used for: reminders, alerts, notifications, various communications. I'm not going to go through all the other different use cases that could exist for SMSing. I think maybe we might leave that up to the Q&A. If you have an idea and you want to know if it's possible, I think we'd be happy to answer that question. So a little bit about our beta program. We are in beta, and as with any beta, It is constantly evolving. We're constantly adding features to it. We're constantly improving the quality of service of our API. So that just means it's changing. But although we are in beta, our services are still built on the same platform that you're using Phone.com now, which is it's reliable and it works. But as with any beta, you should know that things might be changing slightly, but hopefully always for the better. I did mention pricing a little bit. Right now during beta, everything is free. There are some limits, but being mostly an SMS API right now, any SMSs sent through our API are going to be free. So we don't need to worry about pricing at the moment. What I can tell you is if you're kind of interested in pricing and what it might cost, we're not releasing pricing at the moment, but we can certainly have that conversation offline or in person. But what I can promise is that our pricing for all of our API services are going to be extremely competitive. And again, you only pay for what you use. There's no monthly subscription or service fees that you have to pay on a monthly basis. If you have an API account with Phone.com, you will pay nothing for it until you start using it. And again, right now during beta, you will always pay nothing for it unless you start, unless you buy devices or some other additional Phone.com services. If you do add API to your existing Phone.com account, and that would be necessary if you want to integrate directly with some existing menus and schedules or extensions that are on your account. SMS is free. But then, of course, everything else that you're paying for is, billed the same as it is right now. If you are slightly technically inclined and you do want to understand a little bit about how the API works and want to take a look at code examples, you can go to docs.phone.com, and that would be the best place to learn everything you need to know about our API. It's very comprehensive. There's tons of pages. It's very well documented. But of course, if you have technical questions, you can always email them to us. If you are interested in participating in our beta, you can go to dev.phone.com and request an invitation. And as far as I'm concerned, you're always welcome to email me 24 hours a day, any questions regarding our API. And I didn't put the email on here. I should have, but if you have actual technical questions, you can email api@phone.com.